Now, I think a lot of us can agree that the housing market is probably not going to crash in the long term, at least the next 1 to 2 years. But what's going to happen here in the short term? Now, my name is Dan Parker with the Best Life Home Team, your San Diego real estate resource. And this is this new series where I answer your questions, your comments about living here in San Diego. So if you have questions, make sure to drop it down in the comments down below. And today's question is from Leslie Krill. She says, do you think home prices will come down in the next 3 to 6 months? And I think this is a really great question. One that I'm going to right off the bat tell you, I don't have the exact answer to, but take a look at some of this information, some of the stuff that we're looking at. So this is what we know. As of right now, home prices in San Diego County, and red is going to be San Diego County, blue is going to be the entire MLS, so it's going to include a lot of other areas as well. So that's kind of our baseline. But if we look in May, home prices, home values peaked in May of 2022. And from then until December of 2022, we saw home prices come down 13%. Now, here is where it really matters what's going on locally, because you can see a lot of this graph is these lines coincide with one another. But see what's happening right here as we get into January. Different things have happened here in San Diego County versus the rest of the US. And what we've seen is this year's been crazy. We started this year with a lot of people rushing out the door to buy a house at the start of the year. And from my personal perspective, what I can tell you is I've had a lot of people the last 6 months of 2022 that wanted to buy a house, but they weren't sure what was going to happen with the market. They were afraid of interest rates continuing to go up. They were afraid of the housing market crashing, and they just kind of wanted to wait and see what was going to happen. Starting the new year, starting 2023, they all it seems like just went out rushing into the housing market to try and find something to live in. Now, the main problem here is there aren't any houses. There are still no houses. We have a population of 3.35 million people, and we have barely 2,000 homes for sale. In fact, I think I can, if I look at just this here real quick, just San Diego County, and look at active listings. So we're at 2,900 homes for sale. That's not enough. We need a lot more than 2,900 homes for sale. We need closer to 10,000 homes for sale. But the reality is it's not just about how many homes are for sale. The other thing that we really have to keep in mind is what are the interest rates doing? And this is a huge factor. So yes, we've seen the start of this year, people kind of rushing to buy houses. But it kind of seems like it's starting to slow down a little bit. I think here in San Diego, I think across the country, based on mortgage interest rates, you can see they shot up in the last 3 weeks. This is the second biggest spike that we've seen with mortgage interest rates. And this is a big deal. This is going to slow buyers down. I think nationwide, we're going to see home prices start to come down a little bit, depending on what happens here. If the interest rates come back down a little bit, that's going to be very helpful. I think over the long term, it's very, very likely that they are going to continue to come down. But in the short term, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So here in San Diego County, it is a little bit different. You saw from that first chart that I was showing you on, sales price. Sales price went up. Demand has gone up. Inventory is still really, really low. So what is going to happen here in San Diego? I think a lot of it is contingent on what's going to happen with these mortgage interest rates, because this being high, getting closer to 7% again, when we peaked back here, that's going to slow people down. That's going to affect affordability. That's going to affect people's perception of the housing market. And this is a really big deal. Now, the other things that we can take a look at is going to be the San Diego County active listing inventory. And my face is blocking us here. But if we look at the active inventory, the amount of homes for sale, so this is showing, and look, there are different sources for homes for sale. You're going to see it fluctuate a little bit from what Redfin says, what CoreLogic says, from what Reports on Housing says. It's important to stick with one and be consistent with it, but know that they're all showing the same thing, is that inventory is still really, really low at a time of year where we expect inventory to start to get better. This is an issue. The last thing I wanted to show you is the distressed listing statistics. So if you look, this is going back all the way to 2012 up to today. And the reality is we are not seeing a lot of distressed properties. We're not seeing fire sales for properties. We're not seeing any of that stuff. So when we're looking at what is going to happen over the short term for home values here in San Diego County, again, a lot of it's going to be affected by the mortgage interest rates, which coincides with the perception of buyers in the health of the market. We need that to start to come down if we want to see home values continue go up. Um, but based on how the year started, I think it's fair to say in this local market, we're not going to see prices come down at any significant level unless rates were to go up to 7.5%, 8%, or something along those lines. But we're still seeing a lot of buyer demand, and we need a reason for people to sell their homes again. Part of the reason why the inventory, the amount of homes for sale is so low, is because buyers are sitting on a 3 or 4% mortgage interest rate, and they don't want to sell their house and buy something else with a 7% interest rate. So these are long-term questions. So trying to figure out what's going to happen in the short term is really tough. But knowing that regardless, we're going to see more and more homes start to hit the market over the next couple of months, as the way it normally goes up until about May is usually when inventory starts to peak. We're going to see more homes hit the market. We are going to see more demand. The question is how much demand? And it's definitely going to be a little bit muted than it normally is. So over the short term, I think we're going to see a fairly neutral market. There's still a massive inventory problem. So the buyers that are out there are super motivated. There just aren't going to be as many other buyers that they're going to have to compete against. So that's it for today. If you ever are considering buying or selling a house here in San Diego County, my team and I would love to help. And, oh, that's not what I